All right, cool. Well, I got Dan McDonald back on the podcast. Thanks for coming on, dude. I appreciate it. Um, Last time, I think that was awesome. We had a great conversation. So I'm just honored that you come back on, dude. I know you're a busy guy and doing your thing. So I just, any thanks for coming back on. I appreciate it, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Chris. I really enjoy talking with you.
Oh, sweet. Right on. Yeah. So the last time we talked was about almost 4 months ago. So you just finished your 40-day water fast. And that was like episode 64. If people want to go back and check that out. So we kind of got into your backstory a little bit, how you got to where you are now. And so, but we did skip a thing though, because we kind of teased a story. We didn't talk about it. So we kind of talked about how you got that you found the Essene Gospel of Peace, or it found you, however you want to look at it. And we kind of teased a story about where you were sitting on the side of a river or a creek with a couple beers and some weed. And that was kind of one of your pivotal life-changing moments, or you had an epiphany there or something. We kind of skipped over that. We didn't talk about that. So maybe we could start there, and if there's anything to explain there.
Oh, well, that was one of the most profound experiences of my life. Struggling with the alcohol and the drugs and hating myself for it.
Yeah.
And one day I was just sitting there pretty wasted on my favorite beer, Arrogant Bastard Ale. Just bought a fat stack of weed, a new pipe. And I'm sitting at the river, and I was just thought to myself, you know what? If I'm a pothead and an alcoholic the rest of my life, I'm not going to hate myself for it anymore.
Yeah.
And the second that I had that thought, I stood up and turned around and walked back to my truck. I left the big sack of weed, the brand new pipe, 3 or 4 ice cold Arrogant Bastard Ale in the river, and just got in my truck and drove home, and have been sober ever since.
No way. Wow.
Yeah. And so I think the hating yourself, whether it's food or porn or gambling or drugs, hating yourself for doing those things as opposed to maybe examining why you're doing them.
Right.
That was just a real pivotal moment for me. I'm not saying that's going to happen for everyone, but I've done that with similar things, like with food, like just an addictive personality, which I think everyone kind of has in certain ways.
Right.
Just instead of like hating yourself for eating the cookies every single night, you're like, okay, tonight I'm not going to eat a box of Oreos. Like that's your thing or whatever while watching your favorite soap opera. And if you could just go, okay, I'm not going to hate myself tonight or feel guilt-ridden and shame and go unconscious. You go unconscious, you eat the box of cookies, then you wake up when they're gone. And you go, oh God, what did I just do? I hate myself again. It becomes this pattern. Instead, go, okay, I'm going to eat the cookies, but this time I'm going to pay attention the whole time. I'm just going to watch myself take every bite. And when you become aware, you can't hurt yourself like that anymore, because you're like, this is stupid.
Right.
I hate myself for eating a box of cookies every day for the last 6 years. I'm 43 pounds overweight, and I feel terrible, and I'm depressed, and I really shouldn't be doing this, and then you'll notice that you'll let yourself go unconscious again the next time you want to do it. And if you just keep showing up with that awareness, eventually that's how you end up, at least in this experience, it's awareness that allows you to end up breaking your habits.
Yeah. I call it the autopilot behavior. Like you just kind of go on that autopilot mode, and before you realize it, you're back to doing what you didn't want to do in the first place. So you really have to be conscious of your emotions and feelings, stop for a minute and sit in that space, and don't be reactive to them so quickly, and just kind of observe them and try your best not to be so reactive and just go on the autopilot behavior. But it's tough. It's hard to do.
Yeah, the subconscious is a mighty monster.
Yeah. That's
why being conscious is the key to everything.
Yeah. So was the drinking and the the drugs, was that a constant issue that you always dealt with? Was it like, okay, Monday I'm going to stop, I'm not going to do it again? Was it something that always kind of nagged at you and bugged at you and you couldn't stop? Or
I mean, what weed head doesn't quit every day and start back up every day? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, okay, this is the last time, you know, or whatever. And, or you do that with everything, you know, if you're a conscious being really trying to move forward in your life. And, you know, I can't really speak for everyone else, but I don't like to be anything's slave, you know, and right now I'm working on total freedom. Even from things that people think are normal, I view as, you know, a comfortable prison or a conditioning, you know, and so I've set my standards quite high. I definitely, you know, it would be, you know, I would get sober for 3 months or 6 months, and then something funky would happen. I couldn't handle it. I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the ability to be present. I didn't understand a more spacious or eternal witness consciousness. You know, the more deep down in your feelings, emotions, and actions, the more it's like, this is me doing this, instead of realizing this is like, you are the awareness, the consciousness that's inhabiting this flesh suit that has picked up eons worth of human trajectories, as far as like gluttony is a huge thing. Like our whole nervous system and cultural conditioning is just gluttony. It's like, do you really need to eat that much food? No, nobody needs to eat as much food as they eat.
Right.
But we've become gluttarians, you know? And so now our nervous system, our stomach, our brain, our emotions, it's tied into food for every mood. Hey, we just won the game. Let's go eat. I'm sad. Let's go eat. Just got married. Let's go eat. It's someone's birthday. Let's go eat. You know, instead of saying, you know, it has nothing to do with a natural instinctive desire to nourish, hydrate, and energize your protoplasmic, you know, meat suit. Because if you when you really get to looking at that, you'd be surprised at what food choices you would make to nourish your organism, you know. Right. And I mean, I could go into that. For me, it's more liquidy, like just like thirst is really predominates way above hunger for me, especially at this time with so much of the refinements of the live diet, the sunlight diet, and the water fasting definitely made the system a lot more sensitive.
Yeah.
So thirst is something that comes up quite often. Hunger, not as much.
Not as much, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think just being in these physical bodies, we're prone to be stimulated by it. So that's why we have all these nerve endings, right? And we can experience this outside world, and it's that constant stimulation. And just the environment we live in now with just social media and stimulation of foods, drugs, just what have you. That's the thing that I have to deal with, is being able to just sit still for a few minutes and just be in that space. I'm constantly stimulating myself, whatever it is. So that's tough to be in that space, to just sit and just be quiet. It's tough. It's hard.
That's cool that you brought that up, because that's exactly where I'm at. And we're talking, you know, 44 years of nervous system stimulation of every different type, and moving in the direction of more of a real, I don't know how to say it, but, you know, I guess a spiritual sadhana, stillness. And that's kind of why I'm like MIA right now. Because when I pull away everything, including the social media, phone, food, and, you know, my nervous system just goes flat. And so, and even after all the work that I've done, this nervous system still doesn't, it just goes flat. It doesn't really want to talk. It doesn't want to do things on the internet. It doesn't want anything. And then as soon as you bring in some stimulants, and for everyone, that's a different thing. My latest, the things that I've been getting rid of and, getting much clearer with have been garlic, hot peppers, and salt.
Yeah.
Those are kind of my last, well, I keep, each time it's more and more spacious, like a week, whereas it used to be like a daily thing to
Right.
whip the horse, because this world, the way it's set up, it's totally, our nervous systems aren't really designed. I don't think our nervous systems have been able to deal with or are trained for the amount of stimulation and information and energy that we're dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It is a forced evolution.
Yeah.
But I think that it's funny how the things that we would do to strengthen our brain and nervous system, we're not doing those things, So there's more stimulation and there's less strengthening of the brain and nervous system in our youth, or just even in utero, while the brain and nervous system is forming. The nutritional depletion, the stress the mom is going through, while the brain and the nerves are being formulated in your utero to really give those brain nerves a full development, so that it could handle more information and more energy without getting overwhelmed. And I think we're seeing the brain and the nerves is getting overwhelmed, which requires a more nourishment and insulation and conductive elements, and yet we're seeing more stimulation and less of the support, by basically the food. I mean, is just every decade it's just going down to where there's just not even any real food left anymore that has electrical, magnetic, deeply nourishing minerals. It's funny, I've been noticing lately, the carnivores talk about vitamins, the vegans talk about macronutrients, and then the live foodists talk about minerals and electrical conductivity. So nobody's really wrong or right. It just depends on where you want to roll, so that's kind of why I've been real quiet, because I'm like, I'm a child of the light. I don't care if this thing is just a bag of bones, which it's not. I went to the gym this morning and had a great workout, and I do that on just juices and fruit, but I'm really thin, but the thing is I'm very interested in the light and filling my body, my heart, and particularly my brain, because I've noticed the brain is my personal weak link after vaccine damage, and then when you get the ADD from the immunoexcitotoxicity, and then you get prescribed the Adderall and Ritalin, and then you move on, of course, later on into the harder drugs, the meth that I did for a few years. And then, so my brain is really, that's what I'm doing right now, is brain regeneration. And it's a very fascinating journey that I'm on. I haven't said anything about it to anyone, just because there's no conclusive results, except that I can say that my brain is definitely functioning better now than it ever has. I'm calmer, far more peaceful, much happier. And in my family, depression is 100% down the line. And I'm not the most ecstatically blissed out human, but I don't really get depressed either. And so I'm happy with this neutral place that I'm at. And I believe that I can continue to cultivate through nutrition and fasting. And most of all, the greatest blessing recently has been, meditation, a real strong daily meditation practice. And then, yoga actually being more about the body and opening up, getting the energy to flow. But the meditation, really learning to focus the mind and keep it there and bring in stillness to the body, bring in stillness to the emotions, bringing stillness to the mind. And then at these really incredible subtle levels, actually becoming the master of your own energy field, which is a compilation of all those plus the subconscious. And I've been making a lot of progress, and I wish I could share, but I'm kind of one of those weirdos right now that's like, I really want to know the real truth.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, like we did an interview about the fasting, right? Everyone's talking about fasting. Everyone's a fasting expert. None of them have done it very much, maybe 3 days or something. Here I am. We talked about all the fasting I've done, and all I have is more questions. I'm really curious. And I mean, not that many people do a 40-day water fast, have that experience, and yet are still like, well, God, there's still so much I didn't get to think about and contemplate the last time I was fasting on water. So now I have to do another one. And this time I'm going to spend 40 days just looking and documenting every little thing that I can possibly think of about the phenomenon that occurs during a water-only fast. And so I want conclusions. I want and I think it's going to be about 20 years before I really write my real book to this world. Until then, I was just making YouTube videos like everyone else to get a paycheck so I could, raise my kids and have a roof over my head. So I was just playing like slave boy robot, like most of us have to,
Yeah.
That was sad because I took something that I love so much. I love what I'm doing. I am every day evolving with the diet, the understanding of it, and the consciousness as well. And I took something that I love so much and made a YouTube video one day. And then Krista was like, about 2 months in, Krista was like, we could make money at this. Make a video every day and give it to me. And that was like 9 years ago. And it's just kind of, I want my soul back, damn it, from social media. And I'm taking it back, damn it.
Yeah, too late, man, too late. Well, it's funny, going back to what you said before, because I think our external environment is changing quicker than our internal physiology, right? So in that sense, we're falling way behind. And I think that's the problem too with cooked food. Like, I don't think, maybe one day we'll adapt and be healthier on cooked food, but I think physiologically, our body just hasn't gotten there yet. We transition too fast to think that it's okay and healthy. Maybe one day, but yeah, internally our physiology.
We have adapted quite well. I think there's programs due to the genius of nature and God working together that we have adapted. But when we adapt, what do we lose out on as far as something being optimal? Because I mean, it's amazing. You know what I mean? It's like, it's amazing how human beings, especially when you're a live foodist and you do what I do, which is totally insane. That's why I never talk about it. I go outside my door and I take my little pole and I take my little machete and I go get food off of the trees every day. All my food comes right off of trees. And so when it's like raw food is unnatural, it's like, really? I mean, it's free, so it's just, I live in a different world because it's the grocery store consciousness versus there's an orange tree right there. There's an avocado tree right there, a lemon tree right there, guavas right there, a nice big fat yellow one. I got to go pick that. Just growing. The coconuts is my favorite. There they are, year in. I've been on Kauai for 3 years. and I go to these same trees. There's the lychees. Can't wait till next year. We wipe that tree out. And so, and then when that happens, you see the effect of food on consciousness, and then how the food that's natural and filled with the peak of the sunlight energy harmonizes you with nature. And when you're eating these super high electrical foods, you know, you see that there's no dip. And then when you go off your course and you eat something that's heavier, or a big mixed salad with a bunch of stuff in it and a huge dressing and spices and stuff, it's just like, you know, and you can notice, and then there's this fog. It's like, it's all raw food. It's just big salad with like vegetables and avocado and stuff like that. But, you know, normally I feel the best, and I'm getting more and more tuned in with the mono meals, and mostly like mono liquids. And so I know to the average listener, it's going to be, this guy is insane.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. But these guys that, you know, Arnold Ehret and, you know, Paul Bragg and Johnny Love Wisdom and all these other people that no one's ever even heard of, you know, that have the inside, you know, they were way up ahead of their time. You know, Hilton Hotima. Have you ever heard of Hilton Hotima?
Yeah.
Man, that's my dude right there, you know? And so it's just like, too many of us are willing to be like, the science is settled or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's like, really? When is science settled? When is consciousness not have infinite room to expand on what the potentials are? And so for me, I'm really thankful that the way it happened to me with the gospel of peace, it just blasted me and filled me with light. And it was like, this is what you're supposed to do. And so 18 years ago, I went on a raw food diet, and I've stayed with it, you know? And nowadays, you know, I was vegan for 3 months. Now I'm a carnivore. And then next it's going to be like, you know, God knows what and then no one sticks with anything long enough to have any real conclusive evidence. I know that you can live off fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds for 18 years. And you're fine. I mean, my penis works. I can climb mountains. I can lift weights. You know, I mean, I don't have any health problems at all. My energy is good. My skin is amazing. And the quality of my tissue is amazing, especially after the water fast. So I'm more interested in the quality tissue and an easy, peaceful life. And I know that, like, when you have the proteins, the animal proteins, you do get pumped up, muscles tired, but you know, you end up getting tight. Those acids build up. And even the vegans, raw vegans, vegetarians, all of us, you know, I'm against the vegans and the carnivores. Damn it. You know what I mean? Actually, I'm not against anyone, but I don't want to be a vegan because that's a lot of weird stuff. And I don't want to be a carnivore because I can't kill animals, you know? Yeah. And besides, I'm a YouTuber. I don't have any money, so I got to go outside my door and get the food that's growing for free, you know? Right. And so I've been doing that more and more, and it's just so awesome because there's no discrepancy when you get – now, it's totally ridiculous to say that, but maybe it'll give people an idea because everyone's got mulberries, blackberries, and everyone should be going out and finding as much wild food as they can to calibrate their consciousness to the earth and to remember what that was like, to go to a blueberry patch or a blueberry patch or a blackberries, which are prolific in many areas of the world, and just eat yourself full of ripe blackberries and see the satisfaction that you get from that, the satiation that you get from wild, mineral-rich, sun-ripened mono meals. For me, after all these years of studying nutrition and all that, there is nothing better than and satisfying and satiating than a mono meal, especially one with the ratios with the seeds in them.
Right.
Because when you eat like a dragon fruit, it's the perfect ratio of carbs, protein, and fat, in my opinion. And I was thinking about how so many people are eating like 25% of their diet as animal products, you know, and the protein overload and all the issues that are associated with that. You know, but when we're little tiny babies, we have the breast milk. It's like carbohydrate mostly, then fat, and then a very small amount of protein. Just basically like every wild food is the same. Coconuts, dragon fruit, guavas, lilacois. You know, even the avocados, which are fat bombs, still have carbohydrates and protein in them.
But aren't those mucus forming though? There's a whole community that says avocados are mucus formers. Don't eat them.
Well, that's the thing. If with fat, here's what I've found, just interestingly enough, because that's a good question. Too many avocados does seem to be mucus forming.
Right.
And I've done experiments where I said, let's see where the cap is on this. And it obviously depends on physical exercise, but I found that I could eat. Well, once I got to the point of eating like 4 or 5 avocados a day for a few weeks in a row, then I would start to have negative reactions to the avocados. So it was fairly high level, but it would lead to an acid reaction. I mean, now what I've found is that you'll never have any negative, or at least in this experience, you know, there's never any negative effects from avocados if it's kind of like one avocado every other day.
Right.
And then there's this like, because, you know, I mean, there's so many levels to this. It depends on where you want to roll, what your environment is, what your goals are.
Right.
Healing is for me, healing is a one track. There's only one way to heal, in my opinion. Get the crap out of the way.
Right.
And each individual needs to have a program designed for them so that they can go from, were you a vegan? Did you eat like massive amounts of genetically modified processed grain stuffs? Or were you a one-sided meat eater who hasn't eaten anything but eggs, milk, and meat? Those two people are going to need a little bit different transition.
Right.
So that it doesn't cause any danger. That's why I don't recommend fasting to anyone, because on an individual basis, you want to call me and I'll say, okay, what's your trip? And you can safely guide someone. You don't just do a 40-day water fast.
Yeah.
Because it's not the water fasting that hurts people. It's all the garbage and filth that they have accumulated over the course of a lifetime that is entering back into the circulation so fast, they don't have the vital efficiency to process it. And then it just becomes, it's like the sewer system gets backed up and now your whole house smells like crap and everyone knows it. So when we go, and you rarely see this, much interest in true healing anymore. It's quite a process. It's quite a journey. It's not something that takes place overnight. And it's not for those who want to be, you know, she comfortable. You have to really, it's like, do you really see yourself illuminated by the fire of life? Are you going to be the phoenix and rise out of the ashes of your own debris and junk and filth on every level? Of the physical is the main one that stops everyone. And then, God, if you can get through that, it's like, okay, I'm eating this food that is electrically hydrating and nourishing, and all the pipes and the circulation is working well. The heart is working well. All the valves are open. Oxygen's getting to all my glands. I don't have heavy metal poisoning. I don't have mucus debris. I don't have pus built up in the system choking everything out. And that's obviously, what my opinion is, live foods. Fruit being the best, in my opinion, still after all these years. Not always being able to live up to it, but so much refinement. Now I can live off very moderate amounts of the highest levels of fruits, and I can handle the physical thing. Took a while. I have friends that come over and we put them on detoxes and they get sick. I do the same thing they do. I have no reactions. They vomit or they have the skin eruptions or diarrhea, and I have none of those things. So I'm very blessed after all these years of 25 years of the daily juicing habit. So if we can get past the physical detoxification, which is like, oh, I don't feel so good today. That's awesome. That's what you want. Of course, we're all kind of enslaved. And so I have a lot of compassion because we got to go to work, pick up the kids, and it's a very strange life. And detoxification and regeneration of the human race isn't exactly the New World Order's, agenda for you as a human being to rise up into your human potential and shine like the God being that you are. In fact, it's just the opposite. But let's say you're smart enough and can slip away and kind of make your little trip like the old DTM figured out how to do by saying freedom is number one. You get your physical organism cleaned out. Then you got to work on the emotions. And that is no joke, because there's a lot of stagnant, like anger, powerlessness, shame, grief, guilt, all of it. And you have to be able to sit there through that and process that and learn how to be okay with funky emotions. Some people do better than others at that. It took me a long time. I've really turned it into a game. Oh, wow, I feel terrible. Yes, sir.
Let me pause you right there real quick.